Good evening and a very warm welcome to all of our viewers from across the country and across the world. This is a live broadcast from Anantnag district in Jammu and Kashmir. We've just spent the day in the Pahalgam hills that you see in the distance behind me. You probably can't because it's already dark. But that's where the ghosts of Pahalgam becomes our special broadcast on the second half of our show today. But we are beginning things today with the big decisions that have been taken by India in an interim measure against Pakistan as a possible precursor to big action that could be coming. And I'm going to tell you why from here in Anantnag, and after spending the day in Pahalgam, speaking to the people who were there when the terror attack happened, some of the people whose livelihoods have been destroyed, some of the people who helped, and the security forces who are now hunting the terrorists, as the Prime Minister promised from Bihar this morning. We also want to tell all of our viewers that we're tracking all the parallel threads of this evolving story. The security situation, the political situation, and the military situation that could very soon become center stage in the aftermath of Pahalgam. In our coverage tonight, remember, all things boil down to how it began with the Prime Minister making one of his hardest promises he has perhaps ever made before. Listen in to Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaking in Bihar today.
Friends, today from the soil of Bihar, I say to the whole world, India will identify, track and punish every terrorist and their backers. We will pursue them to the ends of the earth. India's spirit will never be broken by terrorism. Terrorism will not go unpunished. Every effort will be made to ensure that justice is done. The entire nation is firm in this resolve. Everyone who believes in humanity is with us. I thank the people of various countries and their leaders who have stood with us in these times.
Is there war ahead? Is there retribution ahead? Is there hard action ahead by India against Pakistan? Well, it is no longer speculation. Everyone seems to be reasonably clear, especially after the events of yesterday and today, that something big is ahead. What it might be, what the shape of it is, we don't want to guess. We don't want to second guess. We do not want to conjecture. But take a look at these indicators that seem to suggest that the decks have indeed been cleared for something big. These are the top 5 indicators that we are interpreting as indicators of big action ahead. Number 1, the big diplomatic strike. Pakistani visas have all been scrapped. Pakistanis are no longer welcome in India. Active visas have 2 days to expire. No new visas will be granted to Pakistani nationals. Even medical visas or medical tourism visas will not be granted to any Pakistani national. That's one of the harshest steps taken by India. 72-hour deadline, the Indus Water Treaty, which was revoked yesterday and put on hold. Diplomatic presence has been cut in high commissions. Consensus building is already in motion by the government in Delhi. All-party meet is happening as we speak in the national capital right now. The Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, that is President Murmu, has been personally apprised of what could lie ahead. Global support has been rallied by India's diplomatic machinery. Ambassadors and high commissioners have all been briefed. Foreign envoys have been briefed. World leaders from everywhere have expressed their solidarity and support for India. It seems that after the Prime Minister made that promise today, it seems that support for India is growing and there could be a large window for India to actually take the action that the Prime Minister has promised he will be doing. Now, on NDTV, we've got the finest team of reporters looking at every aspect of everything I've just named. And I want to introduce all of them to you because they've been breaking every single thread of this evolving story. We have Sunil Prabhu, we have Vishnu Shom, we have Maria Shakil, and we have Aishwarya Jain. All of them plugged into the aspects of this story that is rapidly in motion and possibly moving towards something that India has never seen. Sunil, I want to start with you. The all-party meeting, was the big political story of the day, being seen unanimously as a move by the Modi government to build consensus, to get all the opposition parties on board, perhaps for something big that's going to happen. What are you hearing, Sunil?
Well, three important points. One, of course, that there is a broad consensus for the government to act. As you rightly pointed out, the timing and when and where and how they go about it, they've left it to the armed forces, and the opposition parties have supported the government in that decision. But of course, the question of accountability, the intelligence failure, the security lapses also have been reflected, and something that the government will have to look at to ensure the larger safety of tourists as well as others in the Kashmir Valley and as well as across the country.
Very important. And Maria, when we were talking about what the Prime Minister said earlier, coming as it did a few hours after, the Indus water announcement was made, which has caused its own separate kind of meltdown in Pakistan, it seems that the wheels are turning quite rapidly on this. And the all-party meeting that's taking place right now, is a basis for what lies ahead.
Yes, that's right. So it will be more of a political consensus building, as Sunil was pointing out, because the political class in India cannot speak in multiple voices here, Shiv. They have to speak in near unanimity as far as the future course of action is concerned. But the Prime Minister's message came from Madhubani in Bihar. The message was loud and clear. When he switched from Hindi to English, the message was to the world community that they have to back India when it comes to its fight against terrorism. India has got support from Donald Trump. India has got support from heads of several other countries as well. All of them have said that they stand firmly with India in this fight against terrorism. So now it remains to be seen what will be the decision that will be taken by the Prime Minister. Has that decision been taken already? It's only a matter of execution, because let's not forget, the Prime Minister's anger was a reflection of the entire country, and it was palpable with every word that he said in that 3 minutes, that perhaps summed up the entire, sentiment of India today.
Before I go to Vishnu and Aishwarya, a very quick word from Sunil. Once again, Sunil, the diplomatic outreach also I wanted to ask you about. That is also crucial. Briefing of ambassadors and high commissioners, getting world leaders on board seems to be a very important piece of this entire effort.
Absolutely, and I think they want to isolate Pakistan. That's the bottom line. The MEA is working overtime to build this international support, that they cannot allow Pakistan as a state to continue to help cross-border terrorism. Enough is enough, and I think that's the message that the MEA wants to send, that there has been a very, very clear signal from others about how there's been support from Pakistan. Those people who were responsible for this heinous crime were Pakistanis, and that they will definitely leave no stone unturned after, just like they did in 26/11, to isolate Pakistan once again here. I think the effort from the Ministry of External Affairs is to send that message that the guys who are responsible are Pakistan, and it is the Pakistan state which is responsible for this.
And even countries like Turkey, which are close to Pakistan, have condemned what happened and expressed solidarity with India. So that gives you a sense of how successful that outreach is. Vishnu, the military aspect is perhaps the most ambiguous one right now. We don't want to second guess it, but all we can do is interpret the things we see in front of us. Army Chief Dwivedi will be here in Kashmir tomorrow. It could be seen as a routine, visit, but in the circumstances, obviously much is being read into it. What are you hearing, Vishnu?
Some stage there would likely be some sort of military option which the government might use. Now there is a range of options which are available. Would it be airstrikes? Would it be opening up the line of actual control with intense artillery shelling? Would it be a persistent hunt for terrorists and targeted attacks on terrorists in Pakistan or elsewhere? Will there be a naval blockade or a direct naval attack of some sort? Now these are very broad sort of terms, but it just sort of outlines the options which are available. I think what we are seeing is a very calibrated positioning of India going up the diplomatic chain first in terms of taking action against Pakistan by way of visas, the Indus Waters Treaty. And I think it's also important, very briefly, Shiv, to reflect on the fact that Pakistan today has said that all treaties between India and Pakistan are being held in suspension, including the Simla Treaty. Now, the Simla Agreement between India of 1972 and Pakistan of 1972 has among its main clauses the creation of the line of control. If the Simla Agreement doesn't exist, then the line of control doesn't exist. What exactly is Pakistan trying to get with that? And from their standpoint, how does that help them at all? So these are all very clear sort of indicators of where we might be headed. Don't want to second guess our military planners, but it seems clear that India wants to send a strong message. When and where is a question we have no answer to at the moment.
And I'll be reporting from Srinagar tomorrow. We'll obviously try and get some clarity, but we do not want to obviously get into the details of what the military structure will be looking at. Aishwarya Jain is looking at internal security, the entire structure as far as the security reviews in different parts of the country are concerned. So many different things happening at the same time, Aishwarya, from the political class to Home Minister Amit Shah being part of those meetings, to the military and flexing that's taking place, to the visits between Delhi and Srinagar. What are you hearing from the Home Ministry side?
Well, the alert had already been given to all the major cities, specifically to the tourist destination after the Pahalgam terror attack, I beg your pardon, and also it is the Ministry of Home Affairs who's very, very closely looking at the developments that are taking place in Jammu and Kashmir. Of course, the directions that were given by the Home Ministry to the senior level officials that are deployed over there. Tomorrow, the Army Chief is heading to Pahalgam as well, and the kind of directions that have been given to implement that to the ground, to the core, is something that would be the priority of the Home Ministry. But just to update you, the all-party meeting in the Parliament has just got over. It lasted for almost 2 hours. It all started with 2-minute silence being given to those people who had died in the Pahalgam terror attack, and we've been told that government, which brought the resolution, had been passed unanimously, that had condemned the terror attack, and it is the government measure to bring all the political parties together on one side. It is, of course, the entire political spectrum who had stood up and stated that it is all of them which is together with the government of India at this point of grief.
Political consensus, given the usual kind of bickering that takes place between the opposition and the ruling establishment, political consensus would perhaps be one of the biggest indicators. Voices coming out from that all-party meeting will perhaps confirm what most people think is going to happen next. We'll, of course, keep you posted through our political team. Thanks to all of our reporters here on this special edition of India Matters from here in Jammu and Kashmir. We're taking a very quick break, but on the other side, my long report, Ghosts of Pahalgam. I spent the entire day in the epicenter of that terror attack, speaking to the people, the survivors, the eyewitnesses, and those whose lives are affected, and those who've been entrusted now in hunting down those responsible. Ghosts of Pahalgam coming up. This is peak holiday and tourist season. It's a beautiful sunny day in April. But this highway that's usually a mad rush of tourist vehicles and taxis making their way to one of Kashmir's most popular destinations, Pahalgam, wears this completely deserted look. I don't even need to explain it. You can see it for yourself. There's nothing on the road. And it's usually a jam here at this point of time. That's what the locals tell us. The fact is, 2 days after the massacre in Pahalgam, just a few kilometers into the Anantnag hills from where we're standing, there is absolutely nothing. A small smattering of supply trucks, lots of security convoys, visibly elevated security in this area. But the only thing coming from Pahalgam have been tourist vehicles. Many had to delay their departure from Pahalgam simply because of the exodus and the rush. There were a lot of people there at the time when the massacre took place, when the terror attack took place. They've all left. Some of them are going to be camping in Srinagar for a couple of days maybe, and then flying out. That is how bad things are. The people of Pahalgam, the people of the towns leading up to Pahalgam, all fueled by the tourism economy, are now completely bereft. They're terrified of what lies ahead. We're told that the hundreds of cars that passed this way at exactly this time, and there were bumper footfalls and tire trails down this road just last year, a record for Jammu and Kashmir. Now 30% of the annual tourism economy has completely evaporated after gunfire that lasted about 10 minutes 2 days ago. What the future holds for Pahalgam and all the other holiday destinations in Jammu and Kashmir hangs in the balance and is totally uncertain. This is the main taxi cab hub in Pahalgam, and I can tell you that this lot is usually empty at this time of year. There is not a single place that has a car, and now every car, every taxi cab in Pahalgam is currently parked, unmoving, nobody inside, no customers, nobody with anywhere to go because they've all gone. Some of these cars were transporting tourists out of Pahalgam back to the Srinagar Valley yesterday, and now they're gone. And all these taxis are now just stranded here. And here are their drivers. Here are the drivers who've got no customers now. They've got nobody to drive. They've got nowhere to go. And they're wondering where the bulk of their income, which is supposed to happen at this time, is going to come from. Ghulam Nabi Sahab is the president of this taxi association. And he's agreed to speak to us because they're sitting around now with nothing to do when this is actually their busiest time. Ghulam Nabi bhai, आपके मन में अभी क्या है जो हुआ है पहलगाम में? अब जो गाड़ियां खड़ी हैं यहाँ पे, यूजुअली अब कस्टमर्स हैं, टूरिस्ट होते हैं, आप उनको पहुंचाते हो जगह जगह. अब क्या है, क्या हालत है अब?
सर हमारा सब कुछ खत्म कर दिया है कि हमारा टोटल जो हमारा रोजी रोटी है तो सर पूरा टूरिज्म पे है. हमारा पूरा पहलगाम पूरा कश्मीर ख़त्म किया है. जितने भी लोग हैं सबका रोज़गार ख़त्म किया है. अगर इसने पहले किया होता था कि हर जगह हर टूरिस्ट स्पॉट में सिक्योरिटी होता था तो इतना नहीं होता था. क्योंकि आरू वैली हम यहाँ से टूरिस्ट लेके जाते हैं, चंदनवारी जाते हैं, बेता वैली जाते हैं. चंदनवारी में सिक्योरिटी है, आरू वैली में नहीं है, 22 शरण में नहीं है. अगर यहाँ थोड़ा सा सिक्योरिटी होता था तो वहम थोड़ा रहता था कि यहाँ टूरिस्ट है, कुछ दबा रहता था. तो हम कोशिश करते हैं कि इस हर जगह में सिक्योरिटी होना चाहिए, क्योंकि हम भी अब जाना नहीं चाहते हैं इन स्पॉटों में जब तक गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटी नहीं रखेगा. हमारा पूरा खत्म किया है, मतलब हमारे पास कोई बाग शाग नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, खाली हमारा टूरिज्म पे होता है सर. हमारा रोजगार बाल बच्चे जो भी है टूरिज्म पे है सर.
Ghulam Nabi bhai and all of the people you see here have no brook with what is happening. They want to live their lives, they want to conduct their businesses, they see these few weeks as the best time to actually welcome guests from different parts of different other parts of India and different parts of the world. Look at this signboard. It says, "I am Indian." People feeling the need to say this in these dangerous times. I strongly condemn the cowardly terror attack on the tourists which occurred in Baisaran, in Pahalgam. As a Pahalgami, we totally condemn this. Kashmir condemn Pahalgam terror attack. They're completely unanimous. There used to be a contract, a social promise, and I was here in 2015 and I remember so many people telling us this, that tourists are off limits. Tourists और मेहमान जो आते हैं उनको नुकसान पहुंचाना कभी नहीं होता, वो लिमिट से बाहर है, वो कभी नहीं हुआ भी है ना? तो ये कैसे हुआ है? आपके मन में क्या चल रहा है? क्योंकि जब मिलिटेंसी चल रही थी, जब टेररिज्म चल भी रही थी, गुलमर्ग, पहलगाम, सोनमर्ग ऐसे जगहों पे मेहमान जो आते थे उनको किसी ने छुआ भी नहीं। तो ये क्यों हुआ? अभी आपके मन में आपका रीडिंग क्या है?
हमारा यही इल्तिजा है सर, हमको पता नहीं है क्या हुआ हमारे साथ, किसने क्या ये मालूम नहीं। बोल रहा है वहाँ तो गोली चल रहा है, सब लोगों ने वहाँ मिलकर उसको हेल्प किया, टूरिस्ट को हेल्प किया। अगर रोड होगा वहाँ उतना कैजुअलिटी नहीं होगा, अगर रोड होगा वहाँ, रोड भी नहीं वहाँ था सर, इसलिए वहाँ इतना कैजुअलिटी हो गया सर। ज़्यादा दूर है, सिक्योरिटी भी नहीं सर वहाँ था।
सर उनको पता था कि मतलब यहाँ से कम 1.5 घंटा लगता है उधर, मतलब पैदल पहुँचने में। उनको पता था कि आप मतलब यहाँ पे ऐसा करेंगे तो कम से कम 1.5 घंटा, तब तक वो भाग जाएंगे। ये पता नहीं कौन थे, लेकिन बहुत कायर थे, बुज़दिलाना, बहुत मतलब वैशी लोग थे, वो दरिंदे थे, वो चाहे कोई भी हो, वैशी दरिंदे थे जिन्होंने मतलब आम लोगों का कत्लेआम किया, हमारे मेहमानों का कत्लेआम किया।
Trauma of what happened here in Pahalgam hasn't evaporated yet. Just about 6 kilometers in that direction is where the massacre happened just a couple of days ago. But here in Pahalgam town, which is usually bustling with tourists, crowded, just look at the streets behind me and look at this market strip. This particular Pahalgam city center, as it is, this town center rather, is usually full of shoppers. The restaurants are usually full of people, famously eating the local trout from the Lidder River, enjoying themselves. There are street carts usually in this part of town. This famous market is really the center of this hill station. Every single shutter is down. You've got a small number of locals sitting haplessly outside their shops, wondering what really to do. There was a Bandh call on the first day. There isn't one today, interestingly, but still no shutters are open. I saw a couple of medical stores open, which is understandable. There are lots of elderly people who live and work here. But ultimately, every single shutter, as you can see, is down. Shopkeepers have no reason to keep them open because most people have completely exited Pahalgam. They've gone to Srinagar and gotten out of Jammu and Kashmir. Even when we arrived earlier today, we saw many people from Pahalgam at the airport making their way out of Kashmir. How is this going to be sustainable is the big question. What do these shutters down really portend for the economy of Kashmir? This is one small part of the overall holiday destination economy of Jammu and Kashmir, but it's a very, very important one. There aren't so many. And remember, what's happened here in Pahalgam has had a chilling effect on the rest of Jammu and Kashmir. As someone very rightly said in a shop, and she didn't want to be on camera, she said, everyone in Jammu and Kashmir feels exactly the same way right now. What the future holds for Pahalgam, we don't know. 26 people dead is something that Pahalgam will possibly never get over. But the injured who had suffered those grievous gunshot wounds were brought here first. They were brought here first in taxis, wrapped in towels and wrapped in sheets to stop the blood loss. This little dispensary is where most of them were brought for initial treatment. Even from the outside, you can tell that it was clearly not equipped enough to deal with grievous gunshot injuries. It is little more than a small little dispensary. Most of the time it's pretty ramshackle with one or two people on duty. But here's the most disturbing part. Person after person, resident after resident that we've been speaking to here in Pahalgam brings up the notion of a hospital. They say, non-instigated, they say that if a hospital, a full-fledged proper hospital befitting a place with such a crowded tourist season was available, then maybe the death toll wouldn't have been 26, maybe 10, 12, maybe even 15 people could have possibly been saved, or maybe the injuries wouldn't have been as grievous. This is that under construction hospital. It is something that represents a promise that's been on for over a decade, we are told. The residents don't blame anyone in particular, but they say promise after promise has been made. Pahalgam has been a bustling tourist destination for so long, and yet, if this hospital perhaps had existed at that time, maybe it wouldn't have been 26 dead. So we just showed you the tiny little dispensary in the under construction hospital where 2 days after the massacre, construction is continuing, painting is happening. We don't know if it's being deliberately done now to show some kind of action. But the people here in Pahalgam believe that if there was a big enough, well-equipped hospital here, maybe the death toll wouldn't have been 26. Maybe some of the injured who had suffered gunshot wounds would have been saved, because they had to be taken far away from here for treatment, by which time they were declared dead. Now, these are the words of the people here. Let's listen to it themselves, because this is something we've been hearing repeatedly since we arrived in Pahalgam. The idea that it didn't have a hospital and that's why some of their guests perhaps couldn't be saved. आप जो बोल रहे थे हमको हॉस्पिटल के बारे में पहलगाम में,
हम इतना रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा था अगर यहाँ पर फैसिलिटी होता था तो यहाँ पर ब्लड बैंक होता है, इतना बड़ा लॉस नहीं होता है। जब मतलब ये हमारे मेहमान यहाँ पर डेथ हुआ, अगर ब्लड बैंक होता था, यहाँ अस्पताल की फैसिलिटी अच्छी होती है। मुलाजिम तो ड्यूटी पर थे लेकिन फैसिलिटी उतनी नहीं है यहाँ पर सर। हम लोग बहुत ही दुखी इस बात पर भी, कम से कम 5-6 लोग तो जान बच सकता था। हम भी अपना खून देने के लिए तैयार रहता था, पूरे पहलगाम के बच्चे खून देने के लिए तैयार होता अगर कुछ फैसिलिटी यहाँ पर होता है।
तो यहाँ पे अलग से ठीक ठाक हॉस्पिटल नहीं था, इसलिए जो जख्मी थे उनको काफी दूर लेना पड़ गया था। कितना दूर?
40 किलोमीटर, लगभग 40-45 किलोमीटर दूर अनंतनाग लेना पड़ा।
और वो 1 घंटा लगा, फिर
1 घंटा लगता, पूरा 1 घंटा लगता सर यहाँ से अनंतनाग के लिए। तो अगर फैसिलिटी होता, हम जवान यहाँ पर लोकल जवान खून देने के लिए तैयार होता है, किसी का जान बच सकता, हमारा फर्ज बनता था किसी का जान बचाना था।